All right, everybody, welcome back to Turn 2 with Scott and Troy. We have a very special guest today. We have the Marlins bench coach, Carson Vitale. He is easily one of my favorite people that we have on the staff here with the Marlins so far. I have not met most of them before this season. A lot of the Marlins staff is brand new, but Carson, I want to thank you so much for being with us today.
Yeah, of course.
A little nugget about Carson. He is from Victoria, BC. If you guys know anything about what I've talked about, where I'm from in Seattle, I have been vacationing in Victoria, BC. I watched the dragon boat races that are very famous in Victoria, BC, and they do have some great food up there. But realistically, we grew up about a boat ride away, we'll call it that way. So, Carson, thank you so much for being with us today.
Of course.
A little bit about your background. You have been a coach now for 15 years, correct? You have gone from the Angels to the Dodgers to the Seattle Mariners, and now here with Miami.
Yep.
You've been a West Coast guy for a very long time. This is your first time on the East Coast.
Yeah.
Are you excited? Are you nervous? Like, what are the feelings going into the season?
Not nervous. Definitely excited. My extent of being in Florida has been going from the hotel to Tropicana Field, and then from Ball Harbor in Miami to Lone Depot. So getting a chance to experience Southern Florida is really exciting for me and my family. I spent my whole life on the West Coast. Every team I played for is on the West Coast. All the minor league system, the whole minor league system has been on the West Coast. So, getting a chance to experience a different part of the country is really cool. But also the city of Miami, which is, really really fun place to be. So we're excited to experience Miami and hopefully bring a really exciting brand of baseball to Southern Florida.
So you say you're not nervous, but you haven't experienced a Florida summer with the humidity yet.
We play in a dome.
The bugs.
We're in a dome.
I get that, but the off day when you're wanting to go to the beach, you want to go out, you want to do something. On the West Coast, we don't have humidity. It's not a thing.
No, but I've also spent over a decade in Omaha, Nebraska, where the bugs and the humidity is probably trumps all of anything in South Florida. Plus, we have tornadoes there, which is a whole different story. But I think I'll be okay. I'll manage.
You'll be okay.
Yeah. You are the Marlins bench coach, and I think it's such a fascinating position because a lot of people know that the bench coach exists, but they don't know what you do. So what does that job entail, obviously during the game, but also when you're trying to help out Clayton and the rest of the staff and the rest of this organization really put out the best product they could be?
Yeah, there's definitely a few different ways I could explain the role as I see it. And that might be different than the way that other teams and other bench coaches see it. I definitely view myself as essentially the middle of the Venn diagram that is the Marlins. So I kind of sit between Clayton, I sit between the players, I sit between the front office, our pitching coaches, our hitting coaches, our Aaron Lenhart, our Major League Field Coordinator. There's all these things that are happening on the periphery. And I think that one of my core functions is to make sure that everything's operating collectively, everybody's communicating collectively, ultimately so that the players get the benefit. Everything goes back to that understanding that everything we're doing is trying to help our players maximize their careers. In order to do that, we have to win games, we have to create a really good training environment, and these things are not mutually exclusive, right? If we create a great training environment for our players to train and ultimately perform, the goal is to help you guys succeed, maximize your industry value, make money, whatever your why is. And if we do that, we're going to make better players, which in turn is going to help us win more games. So all these things kind of coexist together. The second part I would say is building just the best environment possible, both in the clubhouse and anytime you set foot on the bus, in the hotel, in the clubhouse, in the dugout. I want everybody to feel really confident, very safe, to express themselves, to be themselves, to feel exciting to get up and go to work each day. There's a lot of feelings there that just are necessary for each person to be the best version of themselves in each given day. I think another part is the in-game decision making, and I view that part as understanding all the necessary pieces to help Clayton make the best decision possible under stress, under pressure. And to do that, I got to know how you're feeling, who you are, what makes you perform at your best. We have advanced information, we have analytics, but those only mean a certain thing if I can understand where Troy is on a certain day, right? We have a certain number that says this is where you're really good, this is where you fit in the game, but that number only exists and true if you're prepared and ready to go. And so I view myself as making sure that players are ready to perform. There's like transparency in the game plan, preparing both the players and our coaches to make good decisions, and ultimately helping Clayton make the best decision possible for the team to win that game that night.
Presumably you're talking about, hey, we need to make sure Troy's okay, or Sandy, or whoever it is, right?
Mm-hmm.
Are you just like going to say hi and what's up to as many people as you possibly can? I mean, how do you?
Yeah,
some things that build those relationships.
Yeah, like right now, it's really challenging. We have over 65 players in camp. Like touching every player every day is nearly impossible. During the season, when we have our 26-man roster, it becomes a lot more feasible. Right now, my focus is really just on our training environment, maximizing our players' day to acquire skill and then transfer it to the game. Like that's what I'm really focused on. Like the game strategy portion right now and putting players in a position to succeed during spring training is not exactly feasible, but the communication still needs to be there. So yeah, the touch points throughout the day aren't happening at the rate as they do during the season right now, just because it's a lot. There's a lot of moving parts, and most of it is just making sure that our players are training right.
For you, when you get this job, like obviously you're Clayton McCullough's right-hand man, essentially. Yeah. You guys go back a little bit of a ways, so what kind of relationship did you have in the past that maybe you see, hey, maybe this is why he feels I'm right for this sort of role? So
Clayton was a very important figure in my life back in 2015, 16, 17 when I was working for the Dodgers. I was a very young coordinator at the time. The Dodgers gave me the opportunity to lead a massive department, and Clayton was very much a steward in my growth and development, which I couldn't respect the man even more. He's my kind of people. He's salt of the earth. He's very humble. He makes people feel good about themselves. And so getting a chance to work here with Clayton was just something that was very intriguing to me, and one that I couldn't pass up, even though I had a great situation in Seattle with a lot of people I love. I think what I can provide for Clayton is just a layer of trust, knowing that my intention is just to help him make good decisions and make sure that the people around him are supported and that he can go out and be the best version of himself, just like our players.
I'm not gonna lie. You did more in depth about being a bench coach than even I knew. And so I want to say thank you for telling me a little bit more about that, because even if me after my playing career is done, being in the staff, being around baseball, like you said, being around good people. Because baseball people are good people. You find some really, really talented, really good people, and you want to stick with them, just like you were talking about. So this isn't your first time being a bench coach, though. You were a bench coach in Seattle.
Kind of. Okay. So yes.
Kind of.
Yes.
But I have a very specific question. So for those of you that have been listening, I'm of course a Seattle Mariners fan from Puyallup, Washington. A very specific person comes to mind when I think of the Seattle Mariners. Two, but I'm going to talk about one in specific, Mr. Ichiro Suzuki.
Yeah.
Did you have a lot of time talking with him, being about him? I've only seen him as a fan. I've never met him. I've heard stories. I've heard different things. Can you give me a little glimpse into maybe what? Because I've heard he throws BP. He throws BP. He hits. He does. He's a full uniform. He essentially could go out and play at 42, 45, 46 years old.
Yeah, all those things, right? So
so they're all true.
Yeah.
All the rumors are true.
So Ichiro is not overly outspoken. He's a quiet man, but when he does speak, it's pretty impactful. He still trains every day like he's playing a game at 7 o'clock. He's in full uniform and he's preparing both physically and mentally. And I think a lot of that is to show the players, like, this is what a pro is being like. He has a lot of impactful conversations with players throughout the day. He might not always seek the players out, but players are very eager to talk to him, and he's always willing to have those conversations. There's a lot of wisdom there, like beyond measure, obviously. But he's a great man. He's very kind. He's really funny, actually, like sneaky funny.
That's what I've heard.
Yeah.
As well.
But at the end of the day, he just loves baseball, and he wants to continue to give back. And we were lucky in Seattle. They are still lucky in Seattle to have him on a daily basis.
So there was a story, and please confirm or deny if this is a real thing, but there was a phone call, maybe when he was a player, that somebody wanted to have dinner with him and this kind of stuff, and he puts down the phone and he starts asking around. He goes, "This guy just called me out of the blue. I don't know who it is. Tom Brady wants to have dinner or something."
Oh, no way. I haven't heard that story.
And
No.
he said, he used some explicit language, but he said, "I don't know who this is, but Tom Brady wants to meet me." So,
I can see that happening. I like I said, I can't tell you the story's true. I'm guessing there's definitely truth to it.
yes. But other than that, being in Seattle, being a part of the environment that even I kind of grew up in. I grew up as a kid going up to Seattle Mariner game, and I'll tell you a little story about myself. When I was a kid, John Lester, if you remember that name from the Red Sox, actually grew up in my hometown, and we knew his parents.
Oh, I didn't know that.
And so every time that John Lester and the Red Sox would come to play the Seattle Mariners, I'd have my Red Sox jacket on. I'd be watching. We were in the nosebleeds, and we'd watch it. But I loved the atmosphere with Dave Niehaus and all of those great people in Seattle. Tell me more about the city and kind of your experience. Where did you live? What did you do? Because a lot of people don't know, because Seattle's really far up there. A lot of people don't have the chance to get up to Seattle. Scott, at you.
I would love to.
Yeah, but you never
Never
get
been?
up there. It's very far.
I've been to 46 states, and the two in the Pacific Northwest are 2 of the 4 I have not.
Yeah, so I have like a ton of civic pride for Seattle. Me and my wife decided to move up there full time when I got the big league job in Seattle. So we lived up there full time for about 6 years. Fell in love with Seattle. Like almost every part of it, the culture, the weather, the environment. I love to snowboard, so going from downtown Seattle to Snoqualmie and to Mount Baker, it was awesome. I could do that every weekend prior to having my son. Well, I actually had a life. But
wait, you're gonna tell me that? Not got a little baby
no,
girl?
it's the best. Wait, no, it's a better version of a life. I'll tell you that.
Okay.
It's a better
All right,
version of a life. But yeah, just like the culture, the food, just everything about it kind of really just felt like home to me and my wife Lucy. And we wanted to buy a house there and call it home full time. But life happens, and now I'm here. So it was ultimately probably a good thing we didn't decide to move there full time. But Seattle is just, I can't say enough about the city. I love it.
So I have a very specific Seattle thing that I like when I go home, because you can't find it anywhere else. You can't find it the same quality. I'll put it this way. You can't find it the same quality. But do you have any Asian food that you prefer in Seattle? Because truly, the Asian food in Seattle is top notch. You cannot beat it. I have not found it anywhere else.
No, there's a huge Asian population in the Northwest. So chicken teriyaki started in Seattle. So like chicken teriyaki, as most Americans know, started in Seattle. So there's amazing teriyaki spots everywhere. But my favorite type of Asian food is kind of like a Hawaiian fusion. It's chicken karaage.
I know. Yep.
Yeah, it's Polynesian, but also has like Japanese influence. So you get like a roll of sushi with fried chicken, like macaroni salad. Like it's just like the best Asian food ever. Yes. If you ever had like fried chicken thighs that are chopped up, like it's amazing. So that's my number one for sure.
It's unbelievable, and which is funny because I have a restaurant, Happy Teriyaki.
Oh yeah.
And yes, it is the best, and it is this hole in the wall you walk in, and you would never guess that this is the best food you're about to eat. Yeah. It's just one of those places, but they have hundreds of locations, and you see them all over the place. Yeah. But you would never know if you walked into a Happy Teriyaki. If you're in your right mind and you walk into this place, you're walking right back out.
Yeah, so I can tell you my favorite spot. So we lived in Belltown, which like probably like 3 blocks south of the Space Needle, on First Ave in downtown Seattle for almost 3 years in the same apartment. And there was a place like 2 blocks away called Karaage Setsuna, and we'd get chicken karaage there from like almost twice a week. Like it's amazing. It's the best ever. Yeah.
Were you a Mariners fan as a kid growing up in British Columbia?
So yes and no. My dad is from Madison, Wisconsin. Anybody from southern Wisconsin is generally a Cubs fan. Mm-hmm. So I grew up watching WGN and watching Sammy Sosa and the Cubs play. So my dad was a huge Cubs fan. So I was a Cubs fan, but like just regionally, we watched Mariners games all the time. We'd go down and watch games. So like a bit of both. A bit of both, yeah.
I think your career is really fascinating because of where you grew up, but then you end up you mentioned Nebraska, Creighton.
Yep.
You end up there. what was that just your way of getting back to the Midwest because of your dad, or
Yeah.
have you got a sneaky good baseball program too?
No. So there's two moments in my life I can look at and be like, okay, that really shaped my life, and that really shaped my life. One of them was committing to go to Creighton, and the other was living in the Dominican Republic. But going to Creighton, I was playing in the Northwoods League, and I was already committed to go to Oregon. And it wasn't a huge scholarship, and like my family, we don't come from a bunch of money, so it was going to cost us quite a bit. And the recruiting coordinator for Creighton was there watching a game and offered me a scholarship on site. And it was like a big scholarship and something that we just couldn't say no to. And I never heard of Creighton before that. I'd never been to Omaha, I'd never been to Nebraska. So my dad's like, you're going to Creighton kind of thing, you know. So like, but ultimately it was like the best thing ever. It completely shaped my life. I became a man there. I met all my closest friends there. We still live there, and now we live in Omaha, and you know, a large part of that. And my wife in Omaha, so I have an affinity for Nebraska, that's for sure.
The other big moment in your life, the Dominican Republic.
Yeah.
How did that shape you?
That probably, so going to Creighton definitely made me made me grow up, and the Dominican Republic shaped how I view the world, and I'm probably a little bit more laissez-faire, a little more laid back than most atypical baseball coaches. A lot of things just aren't that important to me. Like the small things just aren't that important to me. Treating people with respect, you know, being grateful every day, and like material things just don't really do it for me anymore. And I learned all that in the DR, where things are not like that, you know. So very grateful for that experience. Completely shaped who I am. Completely shaped my worldview, and hopefully I can, my goal through baseball is to ensure that people are just treating people the right way. That means a lot to me.
And how long were you in the Dominican?
I was there full time for basically 2 years. So the season is set up where Dominican Summer League,
Yeah.
then I would come stateside for American Instructional League, then I would go to Dominican Instructional League, then I would go home for Christmas for like 2 weeks, then go back down to the Dominican for pre-Dominican spring training, then I'd go to spring training, and then I'd go back down to the Dominican for the Summer League. So I essentially did that for roughly 2.5 years, and then that's when the Dodgers called and asked to interview me to be their international field coordinator. So then I left the Dodgers, and then the Dodgers, I was basically going there 10 days down in the DR with the Dodgers, fly back to the States, go to an affiliate, go home for a few days, back down the DR, affiliate, home, and kind of did that cycle for another basically 3 years.
So I'm going to give you a nice compliment. Your Spanish is phenomenal. No, you do not be humble right now. Your Spanish is phenomenal.
My Spanish is to a point where people can completely understand what I'm saying, but like, it is not punctual. It is not.
The conjugation.
Yeah,
might
it's not good.
there.
But like, I can get my point across virtually to say anything I want to say.
But Dominican Spanish sometimes is
Right.
that way. They just kind of throw things out there. And,
Yep.
you know, if it sticks, it sticks. But you understand what they're saying.
Well, and that's where I learned, right? I didn't learn from a book. I went down to Dominican to be the DSL manager, not knowing one word of Spanish.
That was my next question.
Yeah, I didn't have anybody on my staff that spoke English, so I was like, okay, you just learn what you learn, or you just don't communicate. And I'm a little mad at myself because I've lost a lot of that memory over the past, call it 6 or 7 years, just because we've had a lot of players in the major leagues with Seattle who were fluent in both languages, so I kind of got by without having to need it. And then we acquired Randy Rosarena at the deadline last year, and it forced me to learn my Spanish back pretty quickly. So, and then the Miami job opened up, and it needs to get better, but it's not bad.
And even in Miami, there's such a huge
Yeah.
Latin population.
Yeah.
So it's going to be very helpful when you're in Miami.
Oh, no doubt.
When all of a
No
sudden a Latin reporter comes up and goes, "Hey, Carson,
sure.
entrevista por favor."
For sure.
And all of a sudden you start speaking in Spanish,
Yep.
and they are so impressed, and so that all of a sudden now
Right,
you
right.
are the Latin coach, the Latin hero in Miami.
More helpful when you're ordering Cuban food.
Yes.
Exactly.
Sure.
Even better.
Oh, yes.
Ordering a Cuban coffee.
Or drinks at a bar. It's
Or
probably more my speed.
38th round pick for you,
Oh yeah.
which is wild, right? And you play a couple years in the minor leagues. Was there anybody that you played for, or maybe even played with, that you felt they were a formative presence for you for when you became a coach, when you were done playing?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, Scott Service is another very important figure in my life. He was the farm director for the Rangers while I was a player, and his uncle was my college coach at Creighton. So he was a very early mentor in my life, and then obviously I worked for him in Seattle for a long time. So he that was the biggest figure in my life at the time, for sure. At that point, played with a lot of good players in the Rangers system: Jerson Profar, Odor, Jorge Alfaro. Like we had a ton of really good players on our short season team. So yeah, no one comes to mind other than Scott, but that was a long time ago, so I probably forgot.
I think your career, like, you've got the Dodgers, who are the jewel of baseball, right? And the Mariners, one of the best at developing young players. You've got the whole pitching staff and Julio Rodriguez. Was there anything that you felt that, okay, you're a 38th round pick, that maybe something you saw in the minor leagues that when you got into coaching, hey, I want to do it this way because I saw this and it was really good, or it was really bad? Did anything like that happen in your playing career?
Yeah, very much so. I think a lot of players in the minor leagues are petrified of higher-ups, of coordinators, of directors. I know I felt that way as a player. And again, if you just always bring it back to our job is to help players feel comfortable and go perform and be the best version of themselves, that doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. So yeah, maybe not so much as like they were showing me how to do it as showing me how not to do it. Like, it's not a knock to anybody. It is what it is in time. People only know what is right or wrong based off of their experience. But when I became the minor league field coordinator with the Mariners in 2018, at 28 years old, which, I was probably too young at the time to take on that responsibility, but it was my mission to make sure that all the players felt like really just very comfortable coming to me with anything. And at least at that moment, like, if Troy feels comfortable enough to come talk to me, that's a win. It might not always be what you want to hear, and it might not always be the thing you want to hear, but I'm always going to tell you the truth. And like that feeling of comfortability and coming to me and then safety, that means everything to me. Doesn't mean I'm always going to tell you what you want to hear or any player what they want to hear, but one, establishing just a level of trust and safety that there is openness and like there actually is like a level of like I feel support from you. I think that's a really healthy thing, and that's what I want all of our players to feel. And again, that doesn't mean it's what they want to hear in the moment, but that's a really important thing for me, for sure.
Going back to your playing career, and please tell me if I'm wrong, but you had one career home run, correct?
Yeah, on my birthday. Yeah.
That's even better. Yes.
Yep.
Because I saw that, I was like, I'm looking at you, I'm like, man, this guy probably hit some dingers.
I was not a great hitter.
So you were a defense first catcher?
Yeah, I mean, I think my first year in pro ball, I think I was okay. I think I had some decent numbers in rookie ball. And then next year, I broke my hamate, like that. I broke my hamate on the last day of spring training, and then got to short season and just got off to a terrible start. And I was the backup catcher, and I knew my place. I was a very good self-evaluator at the time. Yeah, it was just happening a little fast for me, probably. And then I got hurt, and then the career was over. So.
But then a new career started.
Yes, I'm very thankful for all of it happened. I'm very grateful. I wouldn't wish it any other way. In the moment, it was like the worst thing in the world. But in hindsight, it was the absolute best thing for my life.
And I feel like that's a lot of things that, talking about other baseball players and talking about other people in general, like, the setbacks really aren't setbacks. They're just propelling us into greater things.
Yeah.
And so you can't, if you dwell on the setbacks, you dwell on everything that went wrong and this and this and this, all of a sudden it's not going to propel you to success. You're not going to become the person that you can become, which, hearing from your story, Carson, you are even deeper than I thought you were. You are a phenomenal person. You are good people, like
Thank
I
you.
said.
Appreciate
and
that.
it may be because you're from the Northwest, but
probably.
I'm biased. I'm a little biased.
I would agree.
But it's incredible to hear your story of, and I'm going to use this, I don't use this word lightly, but resilience is what it is. And you did so many different jobs. You did so many different positions in baseball to get to where you are now. I do have one very interesting, and you can kick it to the side, you can do whatever you want. Do you have any desire to be a manager at the big league level?
I mean, the short answer is yes.
Okay.
The long answer is I've made a very early decision, I've made some moral agreements with myself at a very young age that I will not deviate from, and one of them is looking for the next job. Like, if I'm going to be really good at my job, I just have to be like very present where my feet are, and if I do that, like, things will generally take care of themselves. But like, I've spent zero time thinking about the next thing, zero time thinking about managing. I spent all my effort, I try to spend all my effort on just doing a really good job today. And it sounds cliche and corny, but like, it is the absolute truth. And that's something that I try to help all of our coaches and players, for that matter, understand. That you can only be as good as where you're at right now.
You might make us famous just from that quote.
It's not my quote. It's not mine.
Well, Scott, we're running out of time here.
Yeah.
Do you have any last comments or questions for Carson?
I just want to say, first off, thank you to the Marlins video
Yes,
team.
thank you so much.
They made this
Thank
happen
you.
for us to be able to record for social media, and thank you to you.
Yeah.
It was awesome to talk with you. I'm really excited about the future of the Marlins because of people like you. Like, I get to come here just a couple days for spring training, and I'll get to travel with you guys a little bit in the regular season. And it's really cool, the environment that I heard him talk about, and to walk in and hear some of our other guys who will be in Jacksonville. It's really, really neat. So I'm excited for this new era of Marlins baseball.
That's why I'm here. We're in a moment in time where we get to create the path forward, and there's no preconceived biases of what's happened in the past. It just doesn't matter. It's what we're doing right here, right now, and we believe in a certain type of philosophy, which is like just rooted in best practice. And if we can do all those things while also making people feel good about coming to work each day, I think that's probably a win.
You were unbelievable.
Yeah,
Thank you so much.
great. Thank you.
No, of course.
All right, everybody, that was turn 2 with Scott and Troy with our special guest, Carson Vitale. You can check us out wherever you get podcasts, Apple, Spotify, YouTube. Please make sure to click subscribe and likes. We will be back with another episode here in about 2 weeks. But Carson, thank you so much. You have been absolutely fantastic. Hope you had a good time as much as I did.
I had a great time. I appreciate it, guys.
So, thank you so much, everybody. We'll see you next time.